This is Africa, the center of the world, the cradle of the world, civilization, the home of countless resources and opportunities.
It is with great pleasure that I welcome you to the 22nd African Securities Exchange Commission Annual General Meeting. I also specifically welcome you to Lagos, Nigeria, one of the most cosmopolitan cities in the world, renowned for its hardworking and resourceful population.
These programs are critical levers of success for ASEA, and we aim to continue to broaden and deepen our relationships in order to create increasing value for members and the African financial market.
His Excellency, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, to come and deliver his speech. Please let's give him a round of applause. Professor Yemi Oshibajo.
African securities exchanges have a vital role to play in promoting best practices in corporate governance to ensure the highest standards of transparency and accountability.
Africa stands at a moment of opportunity. We are the second fastest growing region in the world.
Africa's economic future should be focused and premised on core values and fundamental strengths.
So the point is institutional support from the highest levels, policymakers, getting things done and making it easy for entrepreneurs to actually do business.
Now, if we just flip to that notion of every government in Africa thinking like Rwanda is thinking and acting like Rwanda is acting, then this 45,000 companies is doable. Okay? So that's the issue as to whether or not there can be massive transformation in Africa that's going to unleash wealth at a level that has not been seen, maybe since what happened in China. It can happen. It can happen.
But I will say that the greatest challenges of our time are extreme poverty, anti-globalization, and extremist sentiment.
We have indeed strong representation at the global stage within the world from Africa.
As the incoming president of ASEA, I am delighted to find a house with very strong foundations on which we can build even more stories. As everybody knows, it has been repeated hundreds of times, our continent is really the next frontier for investment.
So now, to get us started, I'm going to ask each of you on my panel to give me what you consider the three greatest challenges that you face or that exchanges face to attract, these inflows, and we'll go from there.
But the exchange have to work alongside regulators and policymakers to make sure that they create an enabling environment for investments, right? So capital transaction cost is certainly a big thing.
The biggest challenge I think we see when we talk to investors both ways. When we talk to domestic exchanges and we talk to international investors, it's the friction issue.
The way regulators deal with them sometimes are not very friendly, and therefore investors around the globe are a bit challenged putting their money in some of our exchanges.
For you to attract flows into the market, you have to have a market that is sizable, a market that can absorb whatever inflow that is going to come in.
It is very difficult to attract companies to the market because people are shying away from transparency. Entrepreneurs are not necessarily keen on sharing their information with competitors, with tax authorities and so forth. So it is complicated.
From your perspective, who are customers of the capital markets, particularly in exchanges? What are their needs, and how do exchanges and capital markets actually, supply or solve or provide solutions to those needs?
Find answers to questions like this. They must be able to make it worth the while of corporates. That takes different dimensions, and obviously it's not just about the few things I've mentioned, also looking into the future.
Then for me, if you are a company that subscribes to those and meet your continuing obligations, the benefit to you is the interest in your share, but secondly also the interest of other people doing business with you.
The customer is a lot more sophisticated. Their expectation now is of a more personalized, differentiated service.
That said, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful evening and God bless you.
Last week, and I tasted the jollof rice. Actually, the jollof rice tasted better than ours. Until I saw the chef, and I discovered that the chef was a Nigerian. I want to see my British friend, my American friend. I want to see my Kenyan friend. Please come over to the dance floor. Let's make it happen. Show to Lagosians how Africa party.
So good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Let me welcome you to the second day of the ASEA annual conference. So for today's proceedings, we will start with a talk from Mrs. Biola Alabi, CEO Biola Alabi Media, and she will be focusing on financing Africa's emerging entertainment industry.
We're preserving the culture. We're putting ideas out there. We're telling your story. We're creating a counter narrative for Africa. Let's invest in that future, not just because it's important, but because there's money there to be made.
This is the African Securities Exchange Association. Exchanges have an inflection point. You could go two ways. You can dramatically increase your product offering, dramatically increase revenues, dramatically increase economic margin.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move on quickly to the next session, and this is the road to 2030, galvanizing domestic finance for the SDGs in Africa.
The question now is really what can capital markets do to move those SDGs forward across Africa?
But I find it quite interesting that the Sustainability Development Goals Center for Africa says that more than any other place in the world, Africa faces sustainability and substantial headwinds in achieving its SDG goals.
When you look at the SDGs themselves, these are sectors that were usually dominated by public sector financing, by the government financing, and so on and so forth. And hence the challenge going forward is how to convert a traditional finance sector by the government to a private sector or a public sector at large being financed.
What's important is for the capital market to see some of these SDG goals as not just social factors that governments should do. There is an investment opportunity in accomplishing some of these SDG goals, and I'll speak to them in a minute.
What's been your experience in BRVM on this issue?
What I can say is that our exchanges make three mistakes in terms of attracting
SMEs to the market?
We are looking for transformational SMEs. We are looking for SMEs who have potential for growth and SMEs who can leapfrog. Okay, so we are not only going to providing funding and pay the loans and we sit back. We're going to be providing funding, we are going to be providing technical know-how, we are going to be providing capacity building, access to new markets, and also monitoring them into the future.
We thank all of you, and it is my distinct pleasure to welcome the President of ASEA to give us the closing remarks and to formally close the conference, Mr. Karim Haji.
I take this opportunity to thank again the panelists who've done a stellar job, and to thank you all for being present throughout these 2 days. It's unusual, actually, after the second day to have as many people still attending. So a round of applause to all of you. And we look forward to seeing you all in Botswana. And thank you to our friend Tapelo for hosting us in Botswana next year.
There is a way I will sing this song. You collect it from me and you hug me. Don't worry, just watch. Oh baby, banana for you tonight. She already said, ooh, so I don't win. Oh baby, yeah. I was in Surulere, but my mama said to me, you're going to DC. Cause banana for you tonight. Baby, take it. Take my banana. Hug daddy. Take me to DC. You're not gonna hug me? Come on, hug daddy. Thank you, Jesus. I have finally seen my future partner. Somebody praise the Lord! Hallelujah!